So I was watching it and I was like, how did he actually do this? So talk about the tool that you use.
Say the other one where the axe is in the guy's face. Yeah, I literally painted that axe in the guy's face.
The misconceptions. They think that it takes 30 seconds and you make a film. Like that's not how it works.
If you think you're gonna jump in and try to bang out something that's a Spielberg or a Jim Cameron, it's not gonna.
Most people completely misunderstand what AI filmmaking actually is right now. Everybody thinks that AI filmmaking is just typing prompts.
They're like, oh man, you just made that in like what, 2 days, 48 hours? I'm like, nah, man, you know what? Hell no. This took me 3 months to do. This took me 4 months to do. What are you talking about?
But after this conversation, I don't think you're gonna look at it the same way.
Ever since I was a kid, I've always had grand ideas for movies. But when I was an indie filmmaker, yeah, I didn't have the budget. Just no way.
So I recently came across this AI generated film that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And after watching it, I knew that I wanted to sit down and talk to the creator behind it because there's something happening right now in AI filmmaking that I don't think enough people are talking about. Everybody sees the clips, everybody sees the hype, everybody thinks you just type a prompt, you hit generate, and suddenly you made a movie. But the reality behind these projects is completely different. So I sat down with filmmaker and creator Chris Vallone after watching his AI generated World War I film, One Man's Land. And this turned into one of the most grounded conversations that I've had yet about where AI filmmaking actually is right now. We get into storytelling, workflows, the reality behind these productions, where AI filmmaking is headed.
I don't like the vertical stuff. I feel like I don't want to cater to someone who's got a 5 to 8 second attention span. And I just don't. It's just my nature. If you're scatterbrained like that, you know what? I don't want you watching my film.
And a whole lot more. And also, this is my first real podcast style episode, so bear with me a little bit on the technical side. Look past that, and if you have suggestions for podcast platforms, setups, cameras, all that kind of stuff, definitely let me know in the comments because I'll probably be doing a lot more of these moving forward. All right, let's go ahead and jump in.
All right. So here we are with Chris Vallone. Am I saying that correctly?
You got it, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome. I saw your film and I was really taken back by it. It was really well made. And
Appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, in a world of a lot of AI slop and a lot of clips here and there, it's fun. It's really nice to see somebody put something together in a professional way. So I just want to commend you. Off.
I thank you for that. You help too, man. I watch your stuff all the time and you're grounded. You show mistakes, you show where you can fault. And I think that's what's great about you. You're upfront and we need that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
well,
man.
I'm glad that we got a chance to connect. So yeah, first of all, I guess just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I grew up in New York. I've always been in New York. I moved to Florida a few years ago, but going back, man, I grew up on Looney Tunes cartoons when I was a kid. I always wanted to be an animator, cartoonist, and went to school for fine art, got a bachelor's in that, taught myself filmmaking and 3D animation with 3D Studio Max. I used to do stuff like that. And I've been a filmmaker for like 25 years. I mean, once I got out of college, I bought at the time a mini DV camcorder called the VX2000. So if you ever look that up, it was like a semi-pro broadcast camera. We're putting mini DV tapes in. And that was at the time like a revolution, you know, like, oh my God, you don't have to shoot on film anymore. You could shoot on mini DV tape. And same attitude like we have today with AI, the backlash was the same backlash back then. You're not a real filmmaker. You're shooting on digital tape. That's not for real. But I started then and I wrote, directed, shot, and produced my own indie films. And I had my own stunt team out of Connecticut. We did martial arts stuff and, you know, I was gifted, but everything was shoestring budget. Everything was like Robert Rodriguez kind of things, run and gun, guerrilla filmmaking. And I did it for a good 8-10 years and pumped out some films. My one highlight, I got into Tribeca one year with my one little horror film. But then like, you know, my late 20s come around and I'm like, all right, I gotta start making some money, especially living here in New York. You know, the whole, we all have a dream, you know, you want to be something, but you know, reality of it is it's very tough, right? This competition. And so it's almost a lottery ticket, right? So I turned a hobby into a business. So I've been running a business for 20 years, but I implemented filmmaking into the business. So I started a YouTube channel back in 2007, still going today with that business. And then a couple of years ago, you know, AI shows up and I'm like, do I get back into it? man, it's been a while. It's been 18, 20, 25 years, but I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. It looks really cool. And jumped right in. And it's been thrilling ever since to resurrect old stories that I wrote back then and bringing them to life now. Oh,
Mhm.
man. And someone coming from a traditional art background, I worked with my hands and drew models and I painted, I sculpted old school photography with 35 millimeter film, all that kind of stuff I've worked with. So if you could, I use that and bring it into AI, I think you got an advantage, So that's
Yeah,
where I'm
yeah,
at.
very interesting. Yeah, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how, people with traditional skill sets are implementing that with these new tools.
Sure.
Because I think, and I think a lot of people think that that gives certain people an advantage versus somebody just coming in fresh
Yeah.
with no sort of background.
I totally agree. Like I know there's this motivation, if you've never studied film or never studied pacing or story arcs and screenwriting, that kind of thing. And AI makes it sound like you could just jump right in and start making movies. And yeah, to a degree, yes, you can. But if you think you're going to jump in and try to bang out something that's a Spielberg or a Jim Cameron, it's not gonna, we have an advantage. Someone like you and I think we have a little bit of an advantage there. We have traditional background storytelling and filmmaking ideals and skills. If you can apply that to the tool today, again, and then it's just a tool, right? I still want to paint with my head, it's still my art direction, my editing, my sound mixing, me directing the bot, right? The actor as if it's a real actor and you're prompting in that fashion.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, you would hope that as time goes on, there's a lot of that brain rot stuff that's out there, right?
Mhm.
And people pumping out so much content. And I think we spoke about this earlier that, YouTube's on a tear right now trying to take stuff like that down. Maybe hopefully guys like us, we get to stick out, in that degree. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I agree. I think having skill sets other than prompting is going to be
yeah,
very beneficial. And like I think we were saying, story is king. So if you can tell a good story and if you can craft a good story, and then with the pacing and putting that story together so that it's entertaining for someone, I think that is what's going to really start to rise to the top, like your film, when other people are putting out just whatever comes to mind. So
yeah.
I think that's very interesting and something that a lot of people should really think of going into this. Even if you're going into prompting and building out AI videos and films, let's take a look at some of the traditional avenues and some of the skill sets behind it. So, and that's what I try to do. That's what I try to do currently is I try to learn something every day about the craft,
Yep.
versus just prompting. And I think that's very beneficial. So,
Even if you got to go back in time, right? Like even if you got to study old styles,
yeah.
like I still love to go back and look at an old Spielberg or a Cameron or movies like Usual Suspects, Shawshank Redemption, stuff that has such great storytelling to it, and you see where the arcs are. Now I know some of those movies might be slow to some of the younger audiences today, but if you can grab some of that and learn from that, even an old screenwriting book, like I've read so many books on screenwriting and pacing and all that kind of stuff. I remember taking a 2-day film school back in the day. It was called Dove Simmons 2-day film school. And you would pay a few $100 and you would sit for an 8-hour class. And they just did it on a weekend. He basically streamlined film school for you. But
Mm,
one thing he did say when it came to screenwriting is you need 5 O's and 5 O shits in your movie. So meaning like, when you sit next to someone in the theater, something big happens, like, oh my God, no way. Oh shit,
mm,
that kind of thing. And he had all the bullet points. He's like, yeah, there's a formula to it.
mhm.
So learn the formulas and then apply it with your AI.
Let's talk about your film that you made before we
Cool.
get too far down the line here. So tell us a little bit about this and how the story came about, and let's just tell me what you want to tell us about this.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up. I love the historical films. I love Last of the Mohicans and Braveheart and Gladiator, all those kind of period pieces, World War II films, World War One. Used to always sit with my pop, watching History Channel and him teaching me about the wars and stuff. And so I always like to dive back into history things. And whether it's turning it into a horror film or, or what, I just let my mind flow. But I was really intrigued. I wanted to do something World War One, and I was just kind of doing some homework. I'm like, what don't we know about World War One? Or, were there certain heroes out there that we just don't know about? And so I just kind of did some Google search and asked ChatGPT. And of course, Chat gave me a whole bunch of
Mhm.
different heroes that were out there during World War One. And one came to mind right off the bat. there was this indigenous soldier who fought for the Canadian Army, Francis, which is really funny, his first name. His last name, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Pega Mega Bow. Long last name. And this guy, ultimate bad ass. I mean, I'm talking, he killed 378 Germans as a sniper. And he captured 300 Germans as well. And they called him the Ghost because they couldn't find him. He used the fog, he used the weather. And they also had Native Americans that fought for the American armies, and they put them in the same marksman type roles. And because these guys, even though they were over in Europe, they still knew how to navigate the land way better than a white guy. So it's just instinctual. And so when I heard about this guy's story, I'm like, how is this guy's story not told or in a movie? I mean, it could totally be feature worthy kind of stuff. And so I just jumped on it. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make it, but I'll do like an inspired story. I'm not going to be to the bone to this guy. But I made my own kind of character based around him, that kind of thing. And I just thought it was so intriguing. And I tell this to people a lot. There's a lot of stories out there. And if you got to go to history to get inspired, because there's so many stories in history, you know. So if you ever got like a brain lock or something, or a writer's block, you know, I always like to go back to history. But I thought of the whole concept around Thanksgiving of last year, so 25. But I didn't start putting it into motion until right after the holidays, like in January. And I run my own business, so I run that full time. So in between, I got a break here and there. I would jump on the film to try to move it along. But it wasn't until like the last month where I was pretty much going every day on it, almost all day, to try to, you know, finish it up. Because I was going into 3.5, 4 months. And then in the AI world, that's a long time, you know. So the technology moves so fast that it's, geez, you know, once you finish the film, a new tool drops. I'm like, man, I could have used that, you know. But
yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that that happens to a lot of us. We start a project, but there's life. You have got jobs, you've got whatever you got going on. And then by the time you come back around to it, it's ancient and you can't even release it anymore. So there is that sort of, okay, this needs to happen now. So before the technology increases and the whole look is different. That's happened quite a few times with one of my projects, The Life of the Lazy Month. But one of the things that you said there, I really like to point out, and that's being able to tell stories that, for one, are very difficult to traditionally tell, because of historical or different period pieces and different things like that. And then for somebody who is on a budget, not you necessarily, but whoever is making something, this makes this possible for people that
no doubt
never have gotten a crew together and got the money together and shot this. And they if you can tell a really good story, there are tools to do it on a budget. So that's a really cool way of looking at this whole AI sort of thing.
And I agree. So I feel, because ever since I was a kid, I've always had grand ideas for movies. But when I was an indie filmmaker, I didn't have the budget. There's no way. I used to make stuff for $2,500, $5,000, made if $5,000. And I didn't pay that my actors. I mean, they would come on set and do stuff for free. I fed them. You know, I come from an Italian background. My mom used to make food for all of them. So we would do that. But I mean, you were limited, of course, with money, you know, contacts, resources, infrastructure, all that stuff to make something like that. But now with AI, you can at least get pretty good stuff can come out just with the tools alone. And like I said, being able to bring an old script back to life that I wrote that I couldn't visually show. You now have something. I've written feature scripts. Now you have a script, and if you make a trailer for it, or at least a short segment of the script, now you have a very pitchable product, right?
Exactly.
We have that today, and we're at a really good time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It gives people that have a good story and a good skill set a way to maybe do it on a bigger scale at some point if they would like to.
Yeah, exactly.
Opportunities there. And that's a really cool side of this whole AI thing. So speaking of that, what did you use to create this? Because, well, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. What did you use to create it? And then there were some scenes in here that are really difficult to pull off just because it's a war film, there's violence, there's whatever.
Yeah.
And I know that with a lot of these models, it's very difficult to pull. So I was watching it and I was like, how did he actually do this? So talk about the tools that they use and how you overcame, and what the obstacles were and how you overcame those obstacles.
So primarily, I think everything this time out for this film was mostly under Higgsfield. This was the first time this was the first film I've made in the AI world where I used Higgsfield. I signed on, made an account, and they have everything under one roof. The site to me is a little chaotic. You log in, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but they got every model there, right? So I use primarily Nano Banana to design everything, make the character sheets for the main guy, and then basically Nano Banana 2 every now and then. But mostly Pro was totally fine. They're a little different here and there with some stuff, but I don't see that there's such a huge drastic difference between the two. So Pro is unlimited. So you use that. You were at the mercy during the holidays. I mean, Hakesfield was pretty slow, I gotta say. I mean, just it was sitting there on the unlimited. So that's the downside to unlimited. If there's a ton of people on, you know, you could really slow down your process. But yeah, between that and then Cdance 2.0 did not drop yet when I started the film. So it was mostly Kling. And in the beginning was Kling 2.6, which was okay. Cdance 1.0 and 1.5. 1.5 had the audio finally. And the dialogue was actually pretty good with 1.5, and the prompting to direct the actors to deliver the lines the way I wanted them to. I don't have many lines in the film, but you know, to show the emotion in their faces, the fear, it did pretty well. I gotta say, I was very impressed. And then every now and then, I mean, CDAN's 1.5 would pop out another voice in the background, like another soldier or something, like yelling to something else in the background. It gave a lot of natural environment in a trench, which I thought was pretty cool. It's pretty intelligent there. And then I pretty much like midway through Kling 3.0 dropped, and then the multi-shot stuff was coming in. So then I was using a lot of that, and that was quirky. I still really like doing a first frame and just let it run, and frame by each frame, let it run. Let's see how it does, as if you're doing a real take on a real shoot. And it might be a slower process, but sometimes the multi-shot just doesn't work out. And that long, if you would stretch it to the 12 seconds or 15 seconds, things broke down, got very jello looking. The continuity and the fidelity was really dropping. But every now and then you'd get like one good clip in that 12-second clip, and you'd be like, okay, I can grab that. Yeah. But then I'd have like 10 or 15 other multi-shot clips, and I'm like piecing it together now to make like a puzzle almost to put it together. So I know, you know, when we're training this stuff through some of the YouTube gurus, they show one take, oh, boom, it's done. Hey, look at that. I could drop it right in the timeline. I'm not showing the mistakes that can happen. And I think with a real narrative film, like what you're doing, what I'm doing, action oriented, you want good performances, that kind of thing. It totally is going to be that iterative process, right? Exactly. It's going to take generations. I mean, I must have rendered thousands of images and videos with this piece for being a 20-minute film. So, yeah, don't feel bad. I tell people a lot, do not feel bad if you got a lot of weird stuff that happens, quirky things. And a lot of times it'll do stuff creatively and you're like, wow, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I could use that for something, you know? So that happens a lot too. But yeah, primarily that's what it was. And in the beginning, I still have Leonardo. I know a lot of people don't talk about Leonardo much, but I like their credit system, because if you don't use credits, they're one of the only platforms. If you don't use credits per month, they don't dump them. They roll over. I like that. That's pretty cool. You know, I used to have OpenArt. I used to use them on my previous films. I don't like their credit system at all. I think they're expensive. And if you do run out of credits during the month and you buy extra credits on top of your subscription and your monthly line is about to roll over and renew, I bought credits like 3 days before my month is going to renew, and I lost 20,000 credits like that. They took them right away and I couldn't get them back. And those were credits I bought on top. So, you know, and you can't talk to anybody. So I wish some of these platforms would actually have you customer service, but getting off track. But yeah, generally Nano Banana, render that, and putting in those prompts, desaturated, World War film footage, documentary style war footage prompting to give you that grit, you know, to buff out that harsh line that AI tends to have. And of course, I did go into Adobe Premiere, which is what I've been using for so many years, and you can tweak it even more there. Sound has been really good. I used to love doing my own sound mixing. Doing animations. I used to do my own Foley, but this time around, I mean, once it hit Kling 3.0, Cdance 1.5, the sound was really good. I was very impressed with a lot, and I still had to add to pump up, give it some more punch in some scenes. But yeah, that's generally the workflow. I mean, it's not basically following what you do. Great idea. You have it down, but your workflow is perfectly fine. It's normal, and that's it. I mean, I would love to. I always keep thinking kind of streamlined and faster. You know, I think we all want that.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
But with a narrative film, it's every shot I want right. So it takes time.
Yeah, and it really is that process that a lot of people don't understand coming into it, is that there's a lot not even on the editing cutting floor, but just on the generation cutting floor where it gives you something that's ridiculous, but
Yep.
you find those little pieces of gold in there. But it's getting a lot better every new model that comes out. Obviously, that's the thing with Google coming out with something most likely in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be
Right.
by the time this comes out, it might have already been released. And staying on top of those things it's important just to know what the best thing out there, but at the same time, getting your tools and having your workflow down so that you're not all over the place is a very good thing too. And
It's a great point. I'm a minimalist. Like I like a clean home.
Mhm.
I'm tidy. And the same goes for my digital platform. Like I like things to be tidy. I don't
Mhm.
like an exorbitant amount in front of my face. It's just my nature. I don't
Mhm.
like clutter. And
Mhm.
so even my workflow on my computer, my workflow is tight. Everything's categorized in the right folders,
That's
upscaled folder, the video folder, the 1080 folder, the 4K folder, the master folder, all that kind of stuff. Even if you got to break it down into scenes, first scene, here's just that folder, second scene, just that folder. Try to keep things tight. When you have 1,000 different things in one folder, I mean, it
yeah.
could drive you through a wall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's find your flow. That's
Yeah.
all I tell people. You don't have to go exactly like this guy online, or find what's comfortable for you
Yeah.
and go with it. If it works, go with it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, is to find what works for you. Because for myself, I wish I was that guy. I wish I was you with the organization. So I've had to really implement these rules and make sure that I'm doing this, or else I'll go down a rabbit hole and
Yeah.
then I'll have no idea where I started off at and where
Yeah.
these files are. So I've had to really teach myself to stay a lot more organized with the labeling, with the folder structure, different things like that. So that's a
Yeah.
really good point to make, because that's going to help you in your workflow. So there are some scenes in here that most of these, like you're not going to be able to pull off on pretty much any of the models in Higgs field, any of the major models, any of the commercial models. There might be a couple that will let you
Yeah.
do some things. But so for the scenes, like this is a war film, people got their brains blown out and different things
Yeah.
like that. How were you able to pull off scenes like that?
So sometimes I got really lucky. Grok would do some amazing things, and then some scenes it would totally censor. There's wording you can put in there that can kind of throw the AI a curveball. So instead of saying blood, I'd say mud. And a lot of times red mud was good enough. And it would sometimes pull off the scene. If there was a headshot that I did, a lot of times it wouldn't do it. Like maybe it would show the guy getting shot and the head would shake and you saw maybe the blood splatter outward a little bit, but I wanted that shot where you saw it like almost entering the head. I mean, I hate to be graphic, but I would bring that into Photoshop, and actually you could find on Google, you could find online. I remember Rodriguez doing this in his 2-day film school class when he would do headshots in the front of the forehead. He literally just got the bullet hole, the blood, where the bullet enters, it's splattered, right? He would Photoshop that in on a still frame on the character and literally frame by frame just tacked it to the guy. So it's kind of almost the same thing where I would get the same bullet hole. Like you can find those graphics, whether it's on YouTube or it's on Google. Some of these sites, these other film sites, they'll supply those as almost like a stock footage in a way, but as an image on a green background. And you can grab that, throw it on, and you can bring that in almost as a reference image into the, say, Kling 3.0 or C-Dance, and put it in right at that one point. If you have to have two renderings of the same video, and then you marry it together in the editing program, that split second, no one's going to see it because the guy's getting jolted anyway. So it kind of marries together, and you put that with sound, it's going to marry together. And then that wound is then tracked with the guide. I would just tell the AI to track it with them. So, but then they say the other one where the axe is in the guy's face. Yeah, I literally painted that axe in the guy's face and then brought it into Nano Banana to kind of clean it up and upscale it to give it a little more detail. And just like how I used to do back in the day with the real actor, that axe is already in the guy's chest. It's all prosthetics. We would do all that up and then just tell him to react. And I'm going to cut it in the editing program to him reacting, throw a little blood on him. And so you use those old techniques. And thankfully, once I started, C-Dance 2.0 came in like towards the later half of the film, and the dynamics were getting better, of course, with the fight scenes. Kling was not doing very well with fight scenes at all. So I thought I was going to have to do like I did last year with another battle film I did, basically the character coming to swing at the cameraman, right? coming to swing at you, then cut to the guy reacting, that kind of thing. Getting two guys on the same page, having a fight scene was very tough back then. But now when C-Dance came in, the dynamics was working in your favor. And C-Dance every now and then will do a little bit of violence for you. If you just prompt it correctly. There's words you can throw in there to throw a curveball to the AI that maybe the sensor doesn't pick up, and you can get away with certain things.
In this field, you have to be really creative, just around. There's a lot of it's with the wording. You try something, it doesn't work, and then you sit back and you think, all right, how can I say this so that it works? And even with Kling 3.0, I know there wasn't a ton of dialogue in this one, but it would mess up words when I'm doing dialogue scenes and whatever. So I would have to go in and I would have to change the spelling of the word or something like that in order to get it to pull it off. And those little tricks of the trade are really interesting and things that a lot of people coming into it don't know about. They generate something and they're like, why is this not working? Why is this not working? Well, it actually is a craft, and there's a lot that goes into this. And what I tend to say to people is that a lot of times I think of people like you and I and others in the field as scientists more than as much as you are. Because you're in there and you're like experimenting. You're like, okay, how do I make this work with the tools that I have? And it's a very interesting process with that.
Well, going back to, you've probably made films before, and I did, on a budget, when you got to really think creatively, how am I going to make real blood? And I would go to the supermarket and get Cara syrup and food dye, right? And that's how we made blood. So you think that my dolly was a wheelchair back in the day. I'd strap a tripod to a wheelchair and run with the wheelchair as if like that was my dolly. So when we're on that kind of a wavelength, when thinking outside the box, bringing that again into the AI stuff, it's same kind of process, really. So you just got to think, like I said, go back to old school traditional ways of making stuff, how indies used to do it. And it's a good way to apply it here, So, yeah.
I definitely like that. I like that analogy. Now, what to you, because as we were talking earlier, everything's shifting so fast. The next tool is coming out. The next platform is coming out. All of the agents are coming out. I've been diving super deep into that to understand them and to see if they can actually make it into workflows and get quality out of it. Like, what do you see? I mean, there's the whole vertical thing. There's a ton going on. So what does the landscape in your world at least look like for AI? What do you see? Are the acceptance, the film festivals, tools, automations, sorry to throw all that stuff in there, just kind of but what's your thought about the future of AI and filmmaking?
I think some of the future, maybe I agree or don't agree with it. I think, like you mentioned, the vertical content seems like is exploding. I remember I had a young guy in one of my classes. I do a meetup group once a month down here in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. We talk to tech, we show short films, we meet once a month. Really great group of people. I've been doing it for over a year now. And there was a young kid that came in and he was working for a company doing the vertical stuff. And he was telling me all about it. And, maybe it's my age. I am not into that, the vertical stuff. I like cinematic, widescreen, telling a story in a meaningful time. I'm not here to rush and shove content down your throat in 30 seconds, a minute, that kind of thing. But he's totally onto something where that is probably the future. It's not for me. I'm still going to go my traditional route. And look, it's just, I'm digesting my stuff that I've created years ago and bringing it out. I've been submitting to film festivals. Festivals are a little slow, still latching on to AI. I've gotten into a few that are, traditional festivals. I'm probably the only AI film in the last year or so that's showing at these festivals. So that's a little bit, you still have that realm of people that are still traditional film, and I'm all for it, man, totally. But you would say like half the audience in the theater, like when the movie's older, some people are like clapping like this, but then some people are like, man, how the hell did you do that? So there's a mixed bag right now. And I'm noticing festivals are now making their own categories for AI, that kind of thing. And now there's just AI festivals showing up that are, I don't know, between 3 and 5 years old, some of them. So that's coming into play. YouTube is getting loaded with content with AI. So that water is getting full. And competition and getting your film out. I mean, you could have a great film, and that algorithm is a tricky nut sometimes. And I've been on YouTube 20 years for my business, and I've seen the ups and downs, and some things to me, just that beast doesn't make sense to me many times. I mean, they can totally squash a film that is so good. And the poor guy doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. And then you got brain rot content. A guy makes an AI film with a hot chick with a thong on a plane and she blows a fart and some guy sitting next to him, and that'll get 2 million views. So it's things like that where I'm like, I'm shaking my head. I'm like, where are we going? But I'm hoping for guys like us, we're going to be able to stick out and the future looks bright. I think with all this, some people are saying, is it a bubble? I don't know. It's moving so fast. I mean, there's so much, like these companies are $1 trillion companies now. It's crazy to think that this is going going south. This is bigger than what we saw before the millennium. I mean, this is bigger than when Amazon was just coming in or when Facebook was just coming in. It's gigantic. So it's really something. It's thrilling and it's scary at the same time. I'm loving it. We're having a good time. But as long as you keep that human element in all this, I think you're going to be okay. But to some people, like filmmakers that are at the festival, they're like, oh man, you just made that in like what, 2 days, 48 hours. I'm like, nah, man, you know what? Hell no. This took me 3 months to do. This took me 4 months to do. What are you talking about? So the message has to get laid out a little better. Hopefully over time, that message will get laid out better for us, guys like us, because this backlash, there's still a little animosity, with it, which is understandable. I get it. It's new tech.
Right.
On my VW channel that I have, I started implementing AI into some of the storytelling that I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of historical mini documentary kind of things. And so my audience there is like, oh, I hate AI. I hate that this is all happening, blah, blah, blah. And they hate everything about AI. So I'm like, all right, you hate AI. You're using it right now. You're on YouTube, leaving a comment on a social platform that is backed by AI. You don't like AI? Go into your garage, grab a hammer and smash your smartphone, because that's AI. You have a 75-inch smart TV in your family room, give it a karate kick, because you know what? That's AI. You got a new car? That's AI. So we all asked for this. Unfortunately, 15, 20 years ago, when the smartphone was a shiny object syndrome and we hit agree on the legal terms that's 10 miles long of legalese that we don't understand, and all the apps we download that also have that legalese. So we really stepped in it. And it was all leading up to this. So I tell that to the skeptics out there about AI. I'm like, you guys are using it every day. You may not know it, but you are. So, use it as a tool, enhance your art, keep it human. And I think we're good.
Right. And that's the thing is that we come across, and I'm glad you touched on that really quick, was the misconceptions. They think that it takes 30 seconds and you make a film. Like that's not how it works. And then the misconceptions about AI, like that term, because most of these things that we're doing and using are just tools. And it's just the newest tool that's out there that's a lot better than the old tools that used to be out there. It's like when the computer happened versus the typewriter. It's the same thing done, but you're using a better tool to do it. Yeah. So I like to think of it that way. And the thing about, like what you're saying, people see AI, they're like, oh, I don't want to watch an AI film. I don't want to watch, like almost like 90% of the commercials that we see on TV, it's CGI and there's also the AI happening in the background that people just aren't promoting it yet. So you're watching every day and you just don't even know it half the time. And I think there's going to be a change in the perception of it soon, but there's just like anything else, there's just as much good as there is bad with these kind of tools. So
absolutely. And it's the same when Photoshop came out. People are like, oh, you're not a real artist. You're able to erase that quick, and you're able to duplicate and clone stamp, and you're able to do. And how about when you make a model for, whether it was for a Victoria's Secret front page or Glamour or whatever. I mean, it was all Photoshop. And back then it was, oh, that's fake. She's not real. Like, yeah, it's the same now. It really is. I mean, it's fake back then. So I just hope there are platforms coming up to, like YouTube. Like I feel like I say, you could put out a film, it doesn't go anywhere on YouTube. Are there going to be other platforms? Like I get notifications. I don't know if you do too. Like Vimeo says, hey, come over to Vimeo, come over to Rumble. There's other platforms out there to show your stuff, to get it out there. I know they're nowhere near as big as YouTube, but like with this war going on, like YouTube's battling AI with AI, and 2 of my guys in my class got their channels taken down, and they were legit storytelling guys. They weren't putting up brain rot. They were doing episodic stuff, and they got caught in the bristles of the YouTube sweep, and they got taken down. So YouTube's trying to get rid of like bloat, and they're trying to get rid of things. Someone was saying, I don't know how true it is, that YouTube eventually wants to be something like a Netflix. I don't know if they want it. Who knows? It's such a mystery. But what do you think is a good avenue besides YouTube? I mean, it's only going to get harder, I think, as the tools become available and people learn more and more. That's my question. Storytellers like us, how do we stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a good question because a lot of exposure at this point comes from these social media channels. And that's not
Yep.
necessarily the final product, but getting things at least noticed. That's a big part of it now. It's really hard to almost do without it. What are you gonna like mail in a disc of your films
I know.
and they're like, who is this guy? So it's trying to figure out that balance between just having these platforms to use. I think, in my opinion, it's having those platforms to use in order to kind of get it to the next level, that next tier. So I think it's very beneficial to use these platforms for things like that.
Yeah.
This versus what, like just letting it sit there and not do anything with it. Will the algorithm shut some of it down? Will some things that that deserve to be seen not be seen or not get the views or whatever? Yes, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I have more views on the short clips that I put up of my film than the actual film itself. So you see where the short stuff has been dominating more than the long form. And so that going back to that kid who said the vertical stuff is what the future is, he's probably right. I mean, even Mr. Beast's views, he's down 50% in views. His long form stuff, what he used to. So there's this short stuff is plastered in front of your face now.
Right. And I'm in the middle there with that whole thing. Because
me too.
I'm definitely acknowledging the whole vertical thing, the short form thing. That's just where the brainwave is right now. I think that there is room, and this is my opinion, I think that there is room to tell a story with that. It's not the same sort of story.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening, and this is just my opinion on it, there's a business model that's coming out now, and it's kind of the proving ground because people's attention spans are so short right now. So
crazy,
you can wheel them in. And I think that's what a lot of these networks and all these platforms are kind of thinking. If you can kind of wheel them in with this short form stuff, then you can present them something a bit longer. And it's a very strange thing that's happening. And I can't really speak too much on it because it's so new.
Yeah.
But I want to experiment with certain stories, certain concepts, just to see how to tell a story on those sort of platforms. But there's quite a few people that I work with that it's the same way. It's like, why am I going to tell a story in 60 seconds? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm right in the middle with it, but
it's a love-hate. I don't like the vertical stuff. I feel like I don't want to cater to someone who's got a 5 to 8 second attention span. And I just don't. It's just my nature. If you're scatterbrained like that, you know what? I don't want you watching my film. But I see where it's all going. Like you watch a Netflix series today or a movie that it's geared towards that person that's also scrolling on their phone or tending to their laundry or watching the dog, and they're watching the movie and they're back and forth. And it's, unfortunately, this is where we are as a society, but it's like, it's scary. I like a personal face-to-face conversation like what we're doing right now, or especially even in person. Like, I love that. I like the old school methods of communicating, to be honest with you. And that's the way I like to portray it in my films. I might have a slow burn to build my story up, and using music to guide it and drive it. And if that song starts off slow because it's building, I'm all for it. But that might be old school to a lot of people, and they don't care for it. But that's what works for me. So
no, I completely agree, and I think there can be that balance, and that's the thing that I'm looking at, because there is a lot of times that I'm on my phone and I've got 2 minutes that I want to consume something, and I don't have an hour to gotta sit down and watch a film.
Sure.
At nighttime, like I've stopped watching series as much. I've been just watching films at night, and whether it's even 15 minutes at a time, just because I've got to get sleep or whatever, I've been getting into that and just taking in the art of that whole feature. And I think to have that balance might be a way to look at it here in the near future for people that are trying to understand both sides of it. But if you're doing doing all that stuff all the time, maybe take a few minutes and just watch a film and take the time to think about that and to make that a point. I'm going to watch a film this week, a full film, instead of watching a series or just sitting on TikTok or whatever. So anyways, that's we can get off of our soapboxes now, I guess, but yeah, that's how I feel about where things are going. But I just wanted to really get on here and talk to you a bit and understand your process, the tools you're using, and how someone can tell a true story like this and make a really amazing film like this with the tools that are out there. So I'm glad I had a chance to talk to you today. And
Yeah, man.
but speaking of that, where can everybody find you? What's going on in your world?
So you can find me on you. All my handles are Vallone Works, V as in Victor, Allone, and Works. And it's on YouTube. I don't have a website yet. I'm thinking about definitely doing that, making a whole portfolio site for all my films to house that. But YouTube is probably the primary platform. So if you go there, I mean, I'm pumping up films up there pretty much every month. You know, I'm not on a weekly basis. The shorts are going up on a weekly, but long form stuff takes a little bit of time to put together. So One Man's Land is there. It's 20 minutes. I would love everybody's feedback. I'm open to constructive criticism. I grew up with that, so
Yeah,
I'm all ears. Yeah, man. I'm not afraid to hear it. So lay it on me. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I just keep plugging away, just keep doing what I got to do, and I got more in the pipeline. I mean, my list of stuff that I got that I want to do, I can't get it done fast enough. You know, that's why I wish my workflow would speed up a little bit, but at the same time, I don't want the quality to suffer.
Exactly.
So working on one even right now. I'm trying to have some footage done for this week's meetup in Palm Beach here, just to show some of my students. But it's been adventurous, man. All I can tell you, it's thrilling. You take Hollywood with a grain of salt. That's what I always do. That I love just putting the content out. I'm expressing where my vision is, and it's been great. So
awesome. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being a pioneer in this industry and telling true stories and doing it in a really good manner, just a really professional way. So definitely
I appreciate it, man.
And yeah, so everybody check out Chris Vallone. All the links and all those things will be in the description. And yeah, it's been great talking to you.
Same here, my man. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.